Lamu town is a 13th century Swahili settlement along the northeastern coast of Kenya.
Lamu County is not just the Lamu Island. A lot of people tend to get confused and equate Lamu County with Lamu Island. The Shela ward comprises Shela, where we have the sand dunes, and Manda, which is the island where we have our airport.
It is among one of the best preserved settlements in the Swahili world. It remains intact not only due to its fabric of impressive traditional mansions that have remained responsive to time and climate, but due to the culture of its people who have amicably remained accommodating to visitors and settlers who ascribe to different cultures and beliefs. Its picturesque narrow streets aligned according to the local climate and its spectacular houses suited to both the climate and Swahili life rate Lamu as one of the most antique yet authentic living cities in the Swahili coast and arguably the world. These inherent values and disturbed authenticity and reliable supply of fresh water made it possible for Lamu to be ratified as a World Heritage Site in 2004.
For Lamu County, especially Lamu on the Lamu Island, we have Shela Kipungani sand dunes, which are mostly the main source of fresh water for Lamu County. And Lamu Town being a World Heritage Site, that is one of the requirements or the prerequisites that made Lamu Town be qualified to be a World Heritage Site.
The Water Resources Management Authority commemorates the Catchment Rehabilitation Day yearly to increase the awareness of our degraded catchment and promote the conservation and protection of the country's water catchment areas.
Catchment Rehabilitation Day is a day Wrma has set aside to emphasize concerns about the importance of looking after our catchment areas.
We need to change our approach of doing things and adopt a positive attitude. The resource is ours, and if well protected, will serve us and posterity better.
Day is celebrated annually. It is on the 13th of March of every year. However, as one notices, this year we pushed it to 7th of April, and this is deliberate because Lamu as an island is facing serious water shortage.
The Shela Kipungani Water Catchment Area, located in Amu Island, Lamu County, consists of a continuous series of ridges of sand dunes that acts as a sponge capable of storing rainwater.
The sand dunes are recharged by rainwater. The rainwater is the one that percolates into the ground, then it seeps into our wells. Then from there it is where we abstract the water by pumping the water from the well to our sump tanks in treatment works.
This storage provides the only source of fresh water, commonly known as majitamu.
Despite having these wells of fresh water on those fields, even in the towns we are staying, we have wells, but the water in these wells are not fresh and good quality like the one we get from those sand dunes.
The population in Lamu is rising, and unless we are very keen, then you find water could be very scarce. When you look around, we have the oceans and other sources of water, but all of them are salty. And it's absolutely very hard to be able to strike an area where you can be able to have fresh water.
The sand dunes stretch out to about 11 kilometers along the southern border of the island, from Kizingoni to Singwe, next to Shela village. The water that supplies the Lamu town is drawn from 34 wells managed by Lamu Water and Sewerage Company, situated in the Shela Well Waterworks.
In the Shela catchment area, it is where our source of water comes from. We have shallow wells. We have about 34 shallow wells.
However, the freshwater reserves in Lamu are under threat. Since the declaration of the Lamu town as a heritage site, it has attracted a lot of interest from foreigners who are much aware of its development potential of the island than the locals.
Locals from Lamu working together with guys from Nairobi land offices and dishing out all these lands, because can get big money for this land. They sell it to the investors who comes and build these big houses so as they can generate income through the tourism industry.
This has led to a rising trend of foreigners buying property and developing prestigious houses and hotels, these that require a lot of fresh water. Unfortunately, the rampant rise of such establishments has led to the encroachment of the water catchment area, adversely affecting the dune formation process.
Lamu is a focal area now for the government of Kenya, and it is key in one of the deliverables the current government is trying to give to the people of Kenya. The Lapset corridor is something very close to the president's heart, and that's why the cabinet secretary is taking this issue very seriously, because success of Lapset corridor, success of tourism, success of original Swahili inhabitants who are staying in Lamu cannot be achieved in the absence of fresh water, which is only available through the sand dunes.
The moment the port activities are launched, there will be a lot of pressure on requirement for fresh water.
Drilling of shallow wells for additional water supply has greatly affected freshwater replenishment and significantly reduced the water catchment size, which usually replenish fresh groundwater by forming a membrane over the underlying ocean water resources.
The sand dunes are very fragile ecosystems, and any activity that interferes with the accumulation of sands, maybe ingress of pollutants into the sand dunes, is going to affect the quantity and the quality of water held by the sand dunes.
The once freshwater wells around Lamu town, Shela village and Manda Island are now facing seawater intrusion caused by over-abstraction. Most hotels in the area spend millions in the desalination process to ensure that they are able to get fresh water for their day-to-day activities.
Na tunapata maji safi kwa kutumia mashine kusafisha kutoka kwa kisima inaingia kwa filter.
Unfortunately, the locals in the area are forced to look for alternatives as they can no longer depend on the once fresh water well, as the saline water from the wells is now being used for their livestock and agriculture.
Zamani ilikuwa ni mazuri tuweza kunywa, lakini sasa imebadilika, imekuwa chumvi ya maji.
Kwa machine.
Kupandishwa kwa mashine sana.
People most affected are women and children, as it can be noted that they usually bear the burden of walking miles to the nearest source to collect fresh water, which is unprotected and most likely polluted.
Wanawake huwa tunapata sana shida, especially tukikosa maji, kwa sababu maji ndio kila kitu kwenye nyumba. Kwa mfano mtoto asubuhi akiamka lazima apate maji ya kuoga, apate maji ya kupikia chakula.
Previously, Takwa ruins in Manda Island was once endowed with fresh water and livelihood enhancing activities. But when people started building on the sand dunes, which were supplying them with fresh water, it led to the depletion of the resource, ushering in undrinkable saline water. The inhabitants had to abandon the town, reducing it to a tourist attraction site.
Some of the old settlements along the coast, Bagamoyo in Tanzania, the Gedi ruins in near Malindi, even here in Lamu, the Manda Island, those areas were vacated when the salt water came into their wells, and this is because of obstructions.
The importance of sand dunes can't be overemphasized, as they act as a buffer of fresh water from saline intrusion.
Sand dunes, if you may, act like a storage forum for water. So when the water falls on the ground, the sand is the medium in which water is held. And so it is just like an underground storage.
It is clear that the nature of the sand dunes is quite vulnerable to disturbances.
So pumping is not an issue. The issue is over-pumping. Because if you over-pump, then you will get what is called salt water or seawater intrusion.
With the increase in developments in the area, the imminent threat to the survival of sand dunes, it is imperative and enhanced the entire Lamu catchment area comprised of these sand dunes is declared and gazetted as a groundwater conservation area.
What we are trying to do with gazettement is to try and get the National Land Commission together with the Ministry of Lands, to reverse decisions taken on allocating and giving titles to some of these important public areas. So that is what we are trying to do.
With this in mind, the Water Resources Management Authority, together with its stakeholders in recognition of the authority's mandate of managing and protecting water resources in the country, as stipulated in the Water Act 2002, have forged an alliance to conserve and protect the sand dune through an MOU with stakeholders to collaborate in the protection, conservation and gazettement of the Lamu water catchment area as they roll out a series of water resource management activities in Lamu County.
As a ministry, we are preparing to take up this exercise very seriously. We even have a budget in our next budget to demarcate, to do surveying and demarcation of the area, as well as fencing of the Shela Kipungani sand dunes.
The call to work with the stakeholders, which is the theme for 2015 refuge rehabilitation theme, is drawn from the IWRM principles, which calls for integrated approach to management of water resources.
The Water Resources Management Authority has been working closely with the various stakeholder groups, including water resource users associations, the private sector, county governments, NGOs, academia, and the like.
A stop order was instituted by the Water Resources Management Authority Chief Executive Officer, Engineer Philip Olum, in September 2008 against any activity within the water catchment area as prescribed in the Water Resources Management Rules of 2007. Wrma, in its continued efforts towards protection and conservation of the water catchment areas, continued with the process of engaging stakeholders in Amu Island for the gazettement of the water catchment area. To date, activities that have been undertaken are as follows. A series of consultative meetings with different institutions in Lamu County have been held, comprising of the county government, the national government, the National Museums of Kenya, Lamu Council of Elders, Wrma, Amu, Rua, and other community members. Demarcating of the boundaries of the 16.5 kilometer square water catchment area by pegging and beaconing. This was done by Wrma, Lamu County, National Museums of Kenya, Rua, and other stakeholders. 106 out of the targeted 200 pegs have been successfully done at an interval of between 50 and 100 meter spacing, depending on the terrain and thickness of the vegetation.
The water rules restrict some activities, which includes construction buildings. Because when you construct buildings, then it means people have to settle.
The area covered is approximately 10.4 kilometers from Kizingoni to Sadaka Ali. For sustainable management of the Shela sand dunes, stakeholder involvement is key. Wrma facilitated the formation of Amu, Lake Kenyatta, Shakababo, Witu, Belebele Chomo, Water Resources Users Associations through mobilization and sensitization of the communities in Lamu and development of the subcatchment management plan. Further to the subcatchment management plan development, the implementation of these plans will be done through funding by Water Services Trust Fund. It is for this reason that the Water Resources Management Authority commemorates the Catchment Rehabilitation Day yearly to increase the awareness of our degraded catchment and promote the conservation and protection of the country's water catchment areas.
The Lamu we know today will be extinct if the sand dunes are not preserved today.
Let us put our country first, let us feel for our country, and for the sake of the sand dunes in Lamu.
Take care of our catchment areas. Otherwise, there will be no water for all of us or our children or grandchildren, and humanity will suffer.